All right, get those thinking caps on because today we're diving headfirst into the world of robotics engineering.
It's a fascinating world, really, where metal meets, well, code, and innovation reigns supreme.
And you know it's really cool. You've come prepared with a whole stack of resources from RoleCatcher, which just screams career deep dive.
Absolutely. And yeah, this goes beyond just robots, right? It's about figuring out what I could actually build as a robotics engineer.
Exactly. For our listeners who might not be familiar, RoleCatcher is like this awesome career toolkit, guides, AI tools, they've got it all.
And something that really stood out to me was how they define a robotics engineer. They talk about combining all these different fields of knowledge, and it's not just about applying it, it's about developing new engineering applications.
It's like they're not just engineers, they're pioneers.
Yeah, exactly. They're not just following a set of instructions. They're literally writing the next chapter of like engineering history.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher really drives that point home about robotics engineers needing those top-notch critical thinking skills, killer problem-solving abilities, and of course, that inherent knack for designing tech that actually works.
And speaking of tech that works, get this. The robotics industry, it's booming.
Oh, I bet. Everyone's talking about it, but what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
So RoleCatcher, they project a massive 17% annual growth rate between 2020 and 2025.
Oh, 17%. That's not just growth, that's like an explosion. What's driving that kind of demand?
Well, think about it. We're in this age of automation. Everywhere you look,
Yeah.
manufacturing, healthcare, even our homes are becoming, smarter, more automated.
Yeah, it's true. It's like we're living in a sci-fi movie sometimes.
Totally. And who's going to build all these incredible robots? Well, robotics engineers, of course.
So we've got all these robots popping up everywhere, which makes me wonder, what does a robotics engineer actually do all day?
Well, RoleCatcher actually gives us a really cool glimpse into their daily grind. And I gotta say, it's not all just, robots gone wild, like in the movies.
Thank goodness for that, though I have to admit, a little robot uprising every now and then might be kind of exciting.
Maybe just a little, to keep things interesting. But in reality, a lot of what they do revolves around design. It's all about creating those blueprints for these complex systems.
So it's not just about sketching out a cool-looking robot.
Right. It's about understanding how all those mechanical parts, the electronics, the software, they all work together.
Like a perfectly synchronized orchestra of like gears and code.
Exactly. They need to be fluent in the languages of mechanics, electronics, and computer science. Basically, they're building both the brain and the body of the robot.
Making sure it can actually, sense the world, think, and then actually act.
Yeah. And speaking of acting, I bet testing those creations is a huge part of the job.
Oh, I can only imagine. All that trial and error, the head scratching, maybe even some late night energy drinks to power through those debugging sessions.
You're getting it. It definitely takes a certain kind of person with a love for puzzles, that's for sure.
Someone who thrives on those aha moments when you finally crack the code, right?
Exactly. It's like being a detective in a world of circuits and sensors.
Speaking of solving puzzles, I was fascinated by how RoleCatcher broke down a robotics engineer's career path. It's like leveling up in a video game.
Right. You start as the eager newbie, shadowing the senior engineers, getting your hands dirty with the research, maybe even dabbling in some basic design work. It's all about absorbing as much as you can.
Soaking it all up like a sponge.
Exactly. Then, as you level up, you start taking on more responsibility, right? Maybe leading a project, making those big design decisions.
And calling the shots.
Yeah, and by mid-career, you're not just building robots anymore. You're leading the team that builds the robots.
Wow. That's a whole different ball game.
It really is. It's a whole new level of problem solving that goes way beyond just code.
And if you make it to the top, to the senior levels, you're like the Yoda of robotics.
The wise master, sharing all that knowledge with the next generation.
And secretly battling robot uprisings, I bet. But on a serious note, it's a career path that definitely demands continuous learning. What did RoleCatcher say about those must-have skills and certifications for aspiring roboticists?
Oh, they had a whole section dedicated to that. And it's no surprise that a strong foundation in programming languages like C++ and Python is non-negotiable.
Right. You can't build a robot without speaking its language.
Exactly. It's like wanting to be a chef without knowing how to use a knife.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, besides those programming languages, what else did they highlight?
Well, they stress the importance of certifications. Things like, let me see, Certified Robotics System Architect, Certified Robotics Engineer, and Certified Automation Professional.
Those are like the golden tickets in the robotics world, right?
Pretty much. They show that you've got the skills to back it up.
But it's not just about checking boxes, right?
Right. RoleCatcher made it clear that it's not enough to just memorize facts or procedures. You have to really understand the why behind the tech.
It's like, what's the point of knowing how to program a robot if you don't get those underlying principles, like, I don't know, sensor fusion or control algorithm?
Exactly. Those deeper concepts, that's what sets apart the robot builders from the true robotics engineers.
It's like anyone can bake a cake by following a recipe, but understanding the science behind it, the chemistry, that's how you become a master baker.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
And speaking of mastering the art of robotics engineering, RoleCatcher had this really cool section on, you ready for this? Interview prep.
Oh, yeah, they went all out on that. I especially liked how they even gave examples of some common interview questions.
Me too.
Yeah.
And these weren't just your typical run-of-the-mill questions. They were designed to really see if you have what it takes to be a robotics engineer.
Like, tell me about a time you faced a really challenging robotics project and how did you overcome the obstacles? Talk about thinking on your feet.
Right. Or how about this one? How do you stay updated on all the latest advancements in robotics? That one really shows them that you're passionate and committed to always learning and growing.
Which, in a field as fast-paced as robotics, is absolutely essential.
Couldn't agree more. It's like they say, the only constant is change, especially in technology.
And what better way to prove you can handle that change than by acing that interview, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of acing interviews, RoleCatcher had this amazing AI tool, the Copilot, that can analyze job descriptions, tailor your CV, and even predict potential interview questions.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Totally. And honestly, I was blown away by how much effort they put into their platform.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a boring old website. It's like it's designed to be your personal career guide, right?
Right. They've got this cool feature called the Career Compass that helps you map out potential career paths based on your interests and skills.
And let's not forget their massive collection of external resources.
It's like a gold mine of
You
information.
can even have links to competitor job sites.
Talk about confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
But, as much as I love geeking out over the technical stuff, there's another aspect of this that we need to address.
That's right.
The human side of it all. Building robots isn't just about like writing code and designing circuits. It's about understanding the impact these machines will have on, society as a whole. And what I find really interesting is that RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from that. They actually dedicate a whole section to the potential downsides of a robotics engineering career.
Yeah, they don't sugarcoat it. They talk about things like the pressure to constantly be learning and the potential for crazy hours. Oh, and then there's the elephant in the room, job automation.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it? Building a career in a field that could, well, potentially automate itself out of existence.
It's a paradox for sure. But RoleCatcher kind of spins it as a call to action for aspiring roboticists. Like, hey, it's not enough to just keep pace with the tech. You have to be thinking 5 steps ahead, always evolving those skills.
It's almost like, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more robots we create, the greater the need for robotics engineers who can adapt and really push the boundaries of innovation.
Exactly. Because let's face it, the robots of tomorrow, they're not going to be anything like the robots we know today. We're talking even more sophisticated, more AI integration, capable of learning and adapting in ways we haven't even, begun to imagine.
It really makes you wonder, what will the job market for robotics engineers even look like in, say, a decade? Will we even recognize the field?
$1 million question.
Yeah.
If I had to take a stab at it, I'd say we're going to see a huge demand for specialists in things like AI integration, machine learning for robotics, even robot ethics.
Robot ethics. Okay, now that sounds intense.
It is. As robots become more autonomous, more intertwined with our lives, we have to make sure they're being developed and used responsibly.
So it's not just about building robots that function properly, it's about building robots that function ethically.
Exactly. And that requires a whole different skill set, a deep understanding of the potential impact of this technology on humanity.
Wow. We've gone from gears and circuits to pondering the ethical implications of, sentient robots. That's quite a deep dive.
That's the beauty of robotics engineering, though, isn't it? It constantly pushes the limits of what's possible, both technologically and ethically.
It really does. So for our listeners out there who are now, I hope, as fascinated by the world of robotics engineering as we are, what advice would you give them? Where do they go from here?
Honestly, embrace the unknown. Don't be afraid to just dive headfirst into this ever-changing world. Find that thing that truly excites you. Hone those skills and never, ever stop learning. because the future of robotics, it's being written right now, and you could be one of the authors.
I love that. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one mentoring the next generation of robotics engineers, sharing your wisdom, guiding them on their own journeys.
That would be amazing.
Well, until then, keep exploring, keep building, and keep asking those big, important questions. That's what makes this field so captivating. And on that note, we'll catch you all on the next deep dive.